Hi, welcome to the bathtub, where when you see this iconic puppy and you hear this iconic music, and then you have both at the same time, and I start dancing like I have electrical shock going through my body, then we stop it really quick because we might get sued. This is a Puppy Noir edition of the bathtub. I'm a little out of breath because Lucky doesn't want to do the Puppy Noir anymore. Do you remember like in the old days, she used to come running in here every time I put that music on? Dodo's cursing. No one wants to do this anymore. Okay, you can get down now. It's also boiling hot here, and I can't run the fan because it'll destroy the pristine clarity of this well-produced and the perfection of the sound that I use. And the whole what do you call it? The illusion that we place on this show every week. It's an illusion that we produce through incredible sound effects and great visuals and graphics and well-trained dogs and birds. Sorry, it took me a long while to get this started because I'm out of breath. And what we're doing this week is called Nero Wolfe Redux. So it's another episode of Puppy Noir, but we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite writers, which is Rex Stout, and the Nero Wolfe books. And the reason we're going to talk about him is, well, the main reason is because I've been reading a bunch of Rex Stout books. That's basically that's how this whole show works. And I was reading a bunch of these Rex Stout books and Nero Wolfe books, and I kind of got hooked on them. I go a little jags when I read the Nero Wolfe books. And by accident, I came across the one. I did a Nero Wolfe episode about, I don't know, time. It's either a year ago or 4 years ago, sometime in the past period of my life. And it was terrible. It was there's a lot of terrible episodes of the bathtub, but this was like one of the worst. You couldn't hear anything, and Lucky was there. I had the music too loud, so you couldn't hear anything. And then the sound was really bad, so you couldn't literally hear most of what I said. So we poured ourselves a big bourbon. It's gluten-free, a gluten-free bourbon. I don't know anything about the ice. I should probably have checked the ice. And this week, what did I read? So I learned a couple of things, one of which was I try to keep track. I've gone through this thing in my old age where I'm trying to read the books in sequence. I've been doing that with a few writers, like the Simenon Maigres we've talked about. And I've been doing that with the Rex Stout for about 6-8 years now, maybe 9, maybe longer. I love these editions. These are the Bantam editions. They were reissues of the old classic Bantams in about the late 80s and 90s. And they're kind of cool. They're kind of new. They have new introductions. Each one has a new introduction. This one's by Robert Crace and Robert Parker, Susan Conant. Everyone has a new introduction by someone who enjoys Rex Stout. And at the end, they have some weird little addition, like from the files of Rex Stout, like letters he wrote or recipes he created for Nero Wolfe. And they're a lot of fun to have these editions. And I like the covers too. But anyway, I picked it up. I hadn't read it in a while. And I picked up before midnight, thought I hadn't read it, and I'd read it like the last time. I'm pretty sure I did that last episode on Before Midnight. So I read it about a year ago, maybe, and as I've talked about certain books, when you get to certain kind of brilliant formulaic books, and these are brilliant formulas, they're formulas all the way from the beginning to the end, but they're brilliant and they're original and they're enjoyable to read. It doesn't really matter if you just read the book or not, because I forgot who killed everybody and I forgot what was going on. This one's about a contest. Before midnight, there's a perfume bottle. It all takes place about a contest where people have been asked to solve puzzles by some perfume company as an advertising gimmick, and then people start getting murdered. The whole gimmick of a Rex Stout Nero Wolfe book is that, as we've talked about, Nero Wolfe is huge. He's much huger than me in pandemic state. He's just gigantic, and he doesn't like to leave the house. That's just like me. He has a huge hothouse full of got a huge place upstairs filled with orchids, which is his love. He loves to breed orchids, and he has some famous horticulturist living up there. I think his name's Horst. I forget now. He's got the world's best chef, lives in his house and cooks him 3 meals a day and snacks all day and fixes pancakes for the narrator of the stories, which is Archie Goodwin. So Nero Wolfe is kind of this big, fat Sherlock Holmes guy, but he doesn't solve mysteries like Sherlock Holmes does. First of all, he never leaves the house if he can help it. He doesn't really go around with a magnifying glass and testing things and making assumptions about people because they have a certain ash on their forehead. He basically tricks people and lies all the time and finds ways of tricking information out of people and getting information he needs. And he often is doing it by lying and pretending he's not lying. And he's always, him and Archie are always fighting with each other. Archie's his leg man. He calls himself his leg man. And Archie is kind of the traditional hard-boiled tough guy. But at the same time, he's really kind of, he can type like 80 words a minute or something. And he's the typist in the house. He takes notes. He's like his secretary as well as his tough guy. And he goes around, he goes out of the house and gets the information on all the murders and the suspects and brings them back. And at least 2 or 3 times in every book, Nero Wolfe has to get everybody into his study and put them in chairs and sit them around his big fat body and ask questions in order to find out who the murderer is. And the other thing that happens in every one of the books is he has to find somebody to pay him to do this. Sometimes he has a client, but more often than not, he's trying to figure somebody who'll pay him to do this job because they have a really expensive lifestyle. So what I've just told you now is pretty much every single goddamn Rex Stout book. About half of the books are novels. The other half, I kind of prefer, my favorite ones are the novellas. So Rex Stout wrote, there were about 60 to 80 page novellas that were in like Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine and some of the old pulp magazines. And they're collected in these like 3 witnesses as 3 long stories. And those are the most fun. Those are the most fun of all of the Nero Wolfe books. And he wrote many dozens of these novellas. So they were published in a certain sequence, and I've been trying to read them in sequence just so I can kind of make sure I know I read them all, because I've read, most of these I've read at some time in my life, but it doesn't matter if you've read them, but I would like to kind of catch up with the ones I've missed. So what I read Before Midnight, which is kind of a good one. 3 Witnesses was my favorite, and the most interesting thing about 3 Witnesses is it's the only one, I don't know of any other one, in which one of the stories is called Die Like a Dog. And Susan Conant writes a funny intro. She says, I thought if a dog was going to die, I couldn't read it. But no dog dies in that story. In fact, it's a story in which Archie and Nero Wolfe get a dog. I don't even remember them having a dog. I don't know if the dog comes back, but the idea that Nero Wolfe would like a dog is kind of true. It makes sense because he doesn't like people at all. And dogs are kind of, he likes his dog. So they spoil this dog, and he's part of a murder investigation. That was pretty good. This is kind of interesting. Might as well be dead. Somebody comes to Nero Wolfe and asks him to find his son. He's had some fight with his son. He's some wealthy guy. Only wealthy people come to Nero Wolfe because he charges tons of money to do his job. And in the course of it, the guy leaves. He says, "Here's my son. Try to find him." And they open the newspaper, and there's some guy in jail for murder. And it's the son. That's basically it. So they end up trying to solve the murder. Really, this was a good one. I liked all of these that I read. If Death Never Slept, and I literally just read this one. It wasn't my favorite of the batch because it has some. Occasionally, is this the one? Yeah. Occasionally, Stout will give you tons of information. This one has like 8 pages of everybody's itinerary. And of course, no one's going to read it. I skipped over that. And Nero Wolfe reads it carefully and catches the murderer. But that kind of put me off. I found it a little bit boring, this book. But the most important thing, these are not like Agatha Christie, where you try to guess who the murderer is. Because you're never going to figure it out. It's always fiddled, so you're not going to know who it is. They're really all about the relationship between Nero Wolfe and his house and his routine. So like John, the president could actually drive up out front, and if Nero Wolfe is upstairs with his orchids, he will not come downstairs. Or if he's having lunch, he will not come outside. He's got all sorts of weird peculiarities. For example, someone comes to the house and they're hungry, he has to feed them. He has to get his great chef to feed them because he can't bear the idea of anyone being hungry, which is such a great character idea. Otherwise, he's kind of a bastard. He's really mean to everybody. He hates women. Archie's obviously a ladies' man. He's the good-looking guy in the pair. And it's just the play of these 2 characters through book after book after book that's always fun. So I read one that I just read in the past year. I enjoyed it just as much as this one, which I think I read maybe. I could have read some of these when I was 14 or 15. So this is one of the few books. I can't think of many writers who I've been reading since I was 14 or 15, and I still enjoy just as much as I did then. So there we go. That's Rex Stout Redux. It's the puppy noiriest or puppy noiriest of the puppy noir series, and we'll probably I'll probably touch base with Rex Stout in the future simply because I enjoy reading him, and I still got, you can't see him here, but I've got a whole, I think I've still got like 30 years of Rex Stout Nero Wolfe novels to go, because he wrote until it was well into his late in his life, and they were all still pretty good. I read a couple of very, very late Rex Stout books, and they were all just as good as the early ones. All right, stay safe. Happy bathing.